Where's my mic? Welcome, guys. Share this video out. I've been waiting to have this one for a long time. Let me fix my studio. Tonight is Mr. Pat McNamara, an old activist friend of mine. When I was just getting my feet wet, he was making his rounds in the central part of Canada, kicking the piss out of Numo and teaching us how to do it. And I got him on the show tonight, so I'm really excited. I'm sorry about the whole timing thing. I put it off an hour because it's a time. I'm 6 o'clock. What I put here, 6 p.m. Alberta, 8 p.m. Ontario. That's what I'm going with. We're in Saskatchewan and we don't time travel here. You know, we don't do the clocks back so weird. So I got the helmet, man. So sorry. I apologize. And my fucking Facebook. Oh man, I think I'm in Facebook jail for about 30 days now. I can't go live. I can post. I can't comment. They take the weirdest restrictions from me, man. Oh fuck. But whatever. Yeah, Facebook not doing so good. YouTube. Fucking Finding Danny on YouTube, man. And Rumble, you got to watch the stupid commercials. I can't turn that shit off. You know, I made $2 in like last year, so there's that. But good old YouTube. I think I could read your comments at least on YouTube and see how many are in here. Okay, share this epic live out. It's gonna be a gooder. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a reunion. I got some videos, some shit you would not believe. Anyways. I have to, I don't know what I got to do. I'm perplexed. I'm a little bewildered. I'm a little kerfuddled. Hey, that's the word. I got to do the, okay. Trump, you know, I've been hard on him. I've been a fucking dick, you know, because I'm pretty sure he's the Antichrist. I'm pretty sure Israel gave him that award and called him the Prince of Peace. I mean, I don't know, man. Whatever. If you read your Bible, that's the guy. He's gonna bring peace to the Middle East. He said, "Yeah, okay." But you know what's? And I've been like, fuck. I shared a picture. The reason I'm in Facebook jail is because I shared a fucking silhouette of Trump sucking on this. It says "draining the swamp," and it's a rabbi with the Star Rampan on him. I shared that in a comment, and we're like, illegal. Fucking illegal. So, but then I see this video, man, and I don't know how to feel. And I'm just saying, I just want you guys to know out there that if anybody's like fact checking this guy, I fact check myself, okay? And I have to put myself in a timeout right now because I don't know what to think of Mr. Trump.
Remember Nikki Haley, who signed "Finish Them" on artillery shells being used against civilians and highly supported Benjamin Netanyahu? Well, it turns out Donald Trump does not want her in his administration. So now Nikki Haley is finished, and her career is pretty much finished off. Anthony Blinken, the man in the White House who used to like to bypass Congress to send our money and military aid to a foreign country at the expense of our economy and reputation, well, on January 6th, you're fired. And he's not coming back either. Merrick Garland, Department of Justice, who used to like to use law enforcement and the courts to go after protesters, pro-pally groups, and in general any political opponents, January 6th, you're fired too. Also not coming back. And now look who's coming in. Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie, who's against AIPAC, against foreign lobbyist groups, who wants to ban dual citizens from serving in Congress, and also said that Congress works more for Israel than it does American patriotism, and somehow got in trouble for that. Well, Thomas Massie, you're hired. And on January 6th, he's going to be one of the first people working in the White House. It's absolutely amazing how much has turned around and changed in just one election.
What the fuck? That Thomas Massie, that he's like the biggest enemy to the Zios in the States. What the fuck? I had a buddy in the UK, maybe I should bring him on the show because he's telling me, he's like, no, Trump's just pretending, but he's gonna fucking give it to him. And then he's gonna bring peace, like the book of Revelations. Anyways, what the fuck, man? And then, like, the United States is going, I'm thinking Trump is like the new Mussolini, little fascist guy, right? But look at where the fucking UK is going. Like guys like me, so Canada, we're in the middle, and everyone's all happy about it. I don't want to like stop the party because maybe Trump's the safer ground. It probably is going to be safer. Look what's happening with the leftist commies in fucking UK
is now saying they are going to imprison any citizen that views what the government deems to be far-right propaganda online for up to 15 years. I have so many questions about this, not the least of which is, can you even control what comes up in your algorithm? If something just happens to pop up in your feed, are you doomed to spend more than a dozen years in federal prison?
Right to jail, right away.
Who gets to determine what far-right propaganda is?
12 fucking years for looking at something. Far-right propaganda. You think it's going to happen to the people on the left too? It's whatever they decide is the wrong thing. And you've seen it. Your eyes fucking glazed it. 12 years. What the fuck? Like, my God, man. Holy dystopian fucking bullshit. Wake up. Fucking. Fuck, man. Before the fucking craziness comes and happens, and it's coming fast. I've been, hey, you guys know this, and you know my story. Now we're getting closer. I'm sharing it more. Where's my little banner here? So, trial's coming. I got trial. Hopefully soon. It sounds like spring. They came at me. Here's the story. They said, November, we're going to have trial. You ready? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. And they're like, okay. We'll try for March. Oh, March. You good for March? I'm like, fuck yeah, March. Let's go. And they're like, whoa. Slow that down. Like May, June, probably. Yeah, we're not good. We're not good at all. And they were just bluffing, man. And I said, fuck, man, if I don't got the money, I'll show up. And you know what? I'll just defend myself and look like a fool. You think this guy cares about looking like a fucking fool? Especially in the courtroom. No, fuck, man. It's for the right reason. 9 years, man, I've been going through this, and I finally get to the trial. 3.5 since I spoke to my kid. I got a gift send go. Fucking Kirk Reese, okay, $50. This guy, you know, Kirk Reese is gonna come back to the show again, guaranteed. But thank you, brother. You know, I'm asking anybody I've ever helped out, $20, $10 even, man. Like, to show that I got some support. You know, I feel like Rocky or David and Goliath, and I'm going in there and probably get my fucking ass kicked. But you know what? Probably not. You know, it's time. Like guys like us is we're due. We're due, and parental alienation is a good argument now. It's getting more and more common. And honestly, I think I've been through it a million times in a million different ways, and I have to see it through. I have to go. And the more support I got to get in there and do it, I don't ask for anything from my show or my activism. This is fighting for my kid, and I'll keep my story updated on that. But you know, it was nice on that Give Send Go. I'll keep my story updated. What was nice is watching Mike Tyson fight and hearing this side of him and realizing that I heard the same thing from Einstein. You know, a lot of famous good men we share something in common.
Outside of the fans watching and all the eyes on you, I'm sure the most important ones are your family. Your kids are out here, everyone's coming in to see you on Friday. What does it mean to have family with you?
Well, it's the family's everything. But my kids, to my children, I'm nobody. But that night they're gonna find out their father's very special.
Okay, that's fucking crazy. Mike Tyson's kids are like, you know, he's a fucking douchebag. Mike Tyson, you know. Fuck, it takes a lot to impress these kids nowadays, man. They couldn't do it, you know. They couldn't fucking do it. Anyways, let's get on with it. So, Mr. Pat McNamara, I got a video here. It's about 4 minutes, and it introduces how I know this guy, met this guy, and then we'll bring him right in right after the video.
How would you feel about having nuclear waste buried right under where you live? Green, glowing, piping hot. Okay, it doesn't actually look like that. It looks more like this. But that is the question people in these two tiny Ontario towns have to decide. Both are voting on whether Canada's first permanent nuclear storage facility will go ahead right under their feet. And there's a lot of waste to store, the equivalent of 9 NHL-sized hockey rinks full of the stuff. So, of course, some people are a little anxious. But why on earth would anyone consider voting yes?
It comes with big subsidies from the nuclear industry and lots of high-paying jobs.
It's about money. Storing nuclear waste, turns out, can be lucrative for a small town. So these communities face this monumental, irreversible choice. They can either turn away a life-changing amount of money or take the deal. And if things somehow go wrong, the town will never be the same. What powers a nuclear plant are these tiny uranium pellets that get put inside fuel rods and bundled together. Those rods last a long time, 3 to 6 years. After they're spent, you swap them out. But they can stay radioactive for hundreds of thousands of years. And scientists have been trying for decades to figure out what to do with them.
We do not have in hand at this moment any satisfactory solution to the handling of spent fuel in the long term.
I foresee that if we continue, there will be the epidemic of cancer, leukemia, and genetic injuries that I fear.
So Canada right now has what you might call a temporary solution. First step, cool the rods. They're extremely hot, so they're dunked into a giant cement-lined pool of water. They stay there for about 7 to 10 years. After that, they're transferred into massive steel containers and stored in super dense concrete bunkers. Now, I said this was temporary, but some of Canada's nuclear waste has been sitting in these containers for up to 80 years, and so far, so good. Thing is, they're not actually supposed to stay there forever. According to Canada's Nuclear Waste Management Organization, this kind of storage is safe, but requires ongoing maintenance and management, which isn't sustainable over the very long period. According to one report, it is inevitable that some structural degradation of these temporary bunkers will occur over time.
It's well designed and it provides adequate shielding and protection for the fuel for 50 years. But, you know, from 50 to 75 to 100 years, we know that concrete can't last forever.
Eventually, if things degrade too much, that report argues, the waste will need to be transferred, increasing the risk to the workers involved in that transfer and of accidents happening during transport. You could have radioactive particles leaching into local soil, groundwater, things like that. Then there are the security risks with above-ground storage, including the possible threat of deliberate spreading of contamination by terrorists. So, for the past few decades, Canada's been working on a plan to bury all of this waste deep underground, effectively forever. They want to move the tens of thousands of bundles of spent nuclear fuel from those concrete bunkers in 8 temporary storage facilities in New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario, and Manitoba to an underground vault in one of 2 possible locations. One is South Bruce, about 2 hours outside of Toronto. The other is also in Ontario, but much further west. It's called Ignace, just over 2 hours from Thunder Bay.
In some of these communities, I mean, this idea was run out of town.
And this is the guy that helped us do it.
How you doing?
Good. And to work. What's that?
Yeah. Ents are the walking trees in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
And their mission was looking after the earth. So doing ant work.
Let's do a history on you because I know you, but other people don't. Where are you from? How did you start into your basically being an environmental activist, would you say?
I guess. Hometown's Port Hope, Ontario, where they've been processing nuclear material since 1930s. Got active there in 2003 when I found out that the school my kids were being taught in was built on radioactive waste. We got into the files and we found out the radon levels during measurements in 1978 were 125 times higher than the allowable level. So I spent about 4 years in Port Hope, helped defeat the proposal to downblend high-level uranium from the Russian stockpiles. They were trying to downblend it in the middle of Port Hope. And then moved out to Alberta to get away from all the nuclear after 4 years there. And 2 weeks later, they announced they wanted to put reactors into northern Alberta. So worked with groups up there for about 4 years. Then after that, migrated over to Saskatchewan and worked with the Committee for Future Generations for the most part over there. And the gentleman that was in that video, Darcy. And then pretty much got out of it about 7-8 years ago. Done enough talking about it and fighting and doing without it.
You wrote a book, right? You wrote a book on it, I remember.
Yeah, I did 3 books on different parts of it. One just on Port Hope, then the one on how we kicked nuclear out of Alberta. And then the other one was just a quick thing that I put together. It was 50,000 words. It was kind of a research guide for everything that's happened in nuclear pretty much since 1930 and all the different parts of it that the Canadian government's been involved in. Like they've known about the dangers of nuclear since 1930 because it was Canadian government scientists that developed the technique to take radium out of the uranium ore. So they were well aware of the dangers of it. And then Marcel Pochon, the head guy at Port Hope, had worked with Madame Curie, and he warned them as well. So they've known since the 1930s of the dangers of nuclear waste. And yeah, since then, haven't been involved with it very much.
It's not that dangerous. Jimmy Carter jumped down in the middle of it.
On December 12, 1952, a nuclear reactor in Ontario exploded and began melting down. To prevent eventual mass destruction from a full meltdown, Canada requested help from the U.S. So the U.S. sent a team of men to help disassemble the reactor. And on that team was 28-year-old Jimmy Carter, who was then a lieutenant in the Navy. But with the amount of radiation that was being emitted, the men could only be exposed for a maximum of 90 seconds. So to prepare, they built a replica reactor and ran drills on the process to, quote, be sure we had the correct tools and knew exactly how to use them. Once they were confident in the process, it was game time. They were lowered into the reactor in teams for up to 90 seconds at a time to unscrew bolts bit by bit. And the young Carter was one of those men who descended bravely to help contain one of the most hazardous materials on the face of the planet. Thankfully, the mission was successful and the core was safely removed. But for 6 months afterward, everyone involved was tested for radioactivity. Luckily, there were no apparent after effects from this exposure, just a lot of doubtful jokes amongst ourselves about death versus sterility. Given the fact that Jimmy Carter is now the longest living president in U.S. history.
The longest living president.
He's been petrified.
You think so? Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Go ahead.
Just such nonsense from the whole industry, the dangers of it. When like the Canadian and American military were using the soldiers as guinea pigs, both in that and then during the nuclear testing, they had them in trenches. It was less than a kilometer away from the detonation site from ground zero. And there was no shielding, no nothing, no warnings given. And there's accounts of people that were in the trenches that said you could see the whole skeleton of the person next to you. They'd look down and they'd see the bones in their hands. The light was so bright, you know, and it took, almost 50 years before any of those people that were affected down in the States got any kind of recompense whatsoever. Canada is still fighting the survivors of the testing and of the work that was done cleaning up the NRU reactors in Ottawa. Like the Canadian government hid the dangers of this right from the get-go. There were the mines that were built. There was 4 mines went into Bancroft after the Second World War. There was another dozen or 14 went in at Serpent River, and then probably about 40 altogether up at Uranium City. And most of them lasted about 25 years because everybody started dying off. But there was never a warning given from 1932 when the government knew about it until 1976 when one of the reports went in and challenging the compensation cases because there were so many guys dying off. And then that was when they found the waste under St. Mary's School in Port Hope. And that was the first time the public in Canada was aware of the dangers and the possibility of nuclear waste anywhere. And everything kind of snowballed after that. There was no regulations of any kind until then.
That's what, when I learned about, I don't know if it was from you or where I learned it, but the duty to consult. Okay. When I heard that because with First Nations as well, they had a duty to consult. It's like informed consent, like the rules that came out of Nuremberg, World War II, right? And when I heard that they were paying, what was it, First FSIN to hold meetings, that was it. And it was at the Saskatoon Inn, and I went and asked the question, what do you do when it gets in the water supply, or what do you do when it leaks during transport? And they shit the bed on the question. They shut the meeting down. They blamed it on me. And I was like, fucking yes.
That's first rule of activism. You have to go in and disrupt anything where they're bullshitting people.
Yes. Yeah.
First rule.
And I was like a fucking torpedo, man. I went in there and fucked it right up. It was great because their bullshit. I was amazed. I didn't know what I was going to ask until I heard their fucking response. And this is their response. Like, what are you going to do with the waste? Well, that's a good question, Numo. Can you please tell me in like a short little video, like 1 minute, what are you going to do with the waste, man? Because I want to know.
Nothing to it.
Did you see the puppy? Like,
when they first went up to Pine House and Patronac to present up there, the way that they tried getting into the communities to start with was that they were holding meetings and paying all the elders to attend all these meetings, and the elders had never seen that much money before. And one of the things that happened as a result of it was that in subsequent years, it took a while before you could get the elders to show up at meetings unless you paid them. Matters of their own governance and that.
Just like when the churches came in and colonized and had the meals. And if you wanted to eat, right, they kill the buffalo, destroy your own means of survival. And then you got to go to the church to eat. And then you got to listen to their bullshit.
Yeah. The one that always got me was that they were supposed to be training First Nations in ways of farming and sustaining themselves. And then they had laws on the books that prevented them from being able to buy any of the implements they needed to farm with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's been such little regard for the natives at times, First Nations at times. After Uranium City shut down in 1982, the government was trying to do something for First Nations up there. So they decided to set up a fish packing facility up there on the same docks that they were using in Uranium City for 42 mines up there. Everything was still contaminated. And the kids were saying, in one of the accounts, the kids were saying they had a really good play area of the sand. Well, that was all the tailings from the uranium milling. That was how blasé the government of Canada was about the whole damn thing. They didn't care how many people they hurt.
They've known for a very long time. Like South America, there was a lot of lessons there that were covered up with how they enslaved people and how actually the people, there's a good story there, how the people revolted. I think it was after the First World War. There's mines that just dried up because the people refused to work in them because it was destroying the environment. They didn't care. It's what's similar to what's happening in Africa too. And then they caused civil wars. Lithium mining. No, it's in
you have to remember how large Canada is in the mining world. Like we have more mines listed in Canada and owned in Canada than any other country in the world.
We're a mining corporation. Canada is a mining corporation. It's always has been.
Yeah, and we've been in trouble, and I don't know how many times we've been taken to court by groups in other countries protesting their treatment from Canadian mining firms down there. And they can't take them to court in their own countries. They have to try and do it up here and incur the expense and the hassle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And our court system is just ground to a halt, just about. Like nothing's really moving.
And like when you get to like lithium mining in particular, the biggest concern is the amount of water usage. You're 2 million liters of water per ton of lithium mined. You know, so, and any of that water that's used is contaminated after that. So it has to be held in settling ponds and, you know.
Before we get too far, because I want to get into lithium. I got a few videos on it. But
Okay.
before we skip this, I want to just touch on, you were talking about how the First Nations, and I got a video with the Numo and how you're talking about people they paid off, elders that they paid off. Like, these people took the money, and if you want to see something get your blood boiling, this to me, this is quite offensive.
Apologize to us, survivors of the Red Semester School, because to me, they recognize the historic wrongs that was done to us as children, dominated by their system, you know.
Reconciliation to me represents acknowledging the past, the history of the hurt and the wrongs that was done to our people, and to recognize that it has generational effects.
Why did the wrongs happen? What caused it? What can we learn from it? We learn a lot about firsthand experiences, and it gets to your heart. You understand the issues.
Experiences, you know. Yeah.
There's like right now, it was really telling when Numo first came out with their announcement of the sites, the 21 sites that expressed interest in hosting them. Virtually every single one was in a First Nation community. Every single one.
The reason I asked you on the show tonight is the same thing's happening right now with the lithium. Like, and this is like what I've been hearing. I'm like, this is the stuff when back in the day in the Committee for Future Generations was on the nuclear agenda. The lithium mining is the same thing now. And when I've looked into it, it actually absolutely just destroys the environment. And what I'm convinced and what I'm trying to sell now, and what I've seen it from my point of view for long enough, I'll play a video later on. A guy talks about how he has advanced technology and he can just take it and do it more cleaner. But they don't want clean ways. They want, just like the Regina was built on a pile of buffalo. They want to destroy your ability to sustain yourself without them. You know, like they want to destroy the environment. Because then you're more sustained. You have to go to them for your food and your shelter and everything, right? I'm convinced that's what's going on, and they have no problem nuking the whole planet if that means they get to keep control. I think they're that crazy. My opinion.
I have some faith in humanity that in the end we'll be close to the edge of the cliff and find our way back in, either through a helping hand or a gust of wind or a lot of people getting pissed off about something.
I got no faith in humanity. I'm sorry, but I love you, Pat. I love that you do. You stay in there. Don't make me, persuade you. Here's a girl. Does a nice little fucking bit. It's about 2 minutes on waste. I think she says it well and says the argument well, and then we'll get into
the problem of nuclear waste disposal is one that is going to haunt us for the next 10,000 plus years, and the government asked artists, geologists, and other scientists to try to come up with a solution to prevent people from settling on nuclear waste dumps. The most potent nuclear waste can actually persist and be dangerous for 1 million years. Yes, 1 million years, potentially long after any of our current civilizations are gone. You may have heard that little critters like Geobacter can neutralize the waste, but that's not actually true. Geobacter can solidify it and prevent it from seeping into the groundwater, but all those dangerous minerals are still going to continue to exist. Given thousands and perhaps hundreds of thousands of years, erosion is going to start making that stuff come up to the surface. One of the major considerations was symbols that we could use, but symbols have changed their meanings over decades and then hundreds of years, like the Jolly Roger. Previously, things like skulls and crossbones were dangerous, but today we see them on backpacks and clothing. So how could we know if symbols, like our symbols for radiation, are going to continue to be identified as dangerous? Here's an artist's depiction of something that we could have up that would potentially tell future civilizations that the area is not good to be at. Other considerations were unfriendly architecture, but we don't know if an ancient civilization's unfriendly architecture could end up being a tourist trap all in its own. Here's a map of the current nuclear facilities that we have in the United States right now. Right now, some of those facilities are overflowing and no one quite knows where to put that waste. It's also not just radiation that we're concerned about, it's lots of hazardous chemicals that we don't quite know what to do with. Until then, we might continue to just put them underground and call it somebody else's problem.
That trumps the argument, in my opinion, that we're borrowing it from future generations, like the community of future generations says. You know, like you're profiting off of enslaving people, not just for a couple hundred years. We're talking thousands, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. People are gonna have to monitor that and watch it. And you're talking all that time. It's not gonna run into an aquifer. It's not gonna be a fucking earthquake. It's like. It's madness, man. It's absolute madness.
They have no idea what to do with it at all. You know, that's the only thing that they've come up with. It was first proposed back in 77, I think, the repository. And it was discounted then, and it was discounted again in the 1990s and that. To show how easy it can be screwed up is when they had that whip site down in the States where they were storing their radioactive waste down there, they were storing it in barrels. They had 2 barrels of plutonium waste blow up underground, and it came right up to the surface. And what had caused it to blow up was that all the components were packed in kitty litter. And for these 2 barrels, they'd used organic kitty litter instead of run-of-the-mill kitty litter, and that's what caused the explosion. Like they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
I find that is the problem in most cases. When people are like, what the fuck is going on? Well, they're adults, they're kids pretending to be adults, like they know more, but they don't.
When I was in college, it was the same. It was the Peter principle. People rise to their level of incompetence in a government or in a corporation. So basically everybody that's running anything is one pay grade above where they should be, where their competence level is. So we've got idiots running at every level pretty much.
Yeah, that's what I've observed. Yeah, I'd say that's fairly accurate, Pat. So bang on there. Yep. What do we get into next here? So let's get into this lithium. The mining. Okay, that's South America mining. I got a little video on that. This is the indigenous communities around the world. It just devastates them. It does. And look to South America because we don't know their history very much. But
for more than 500 years, silver mining has left its scars on the landscape. It was the Spanish conquistadors of the 16th century who laid claim to what's now known to be the largest global silver deposit. An estimated 8 million enslaved miners lost their lives in the mines. Mercury, which was used to refine the silver, polluted streams and poisoned local ecosystems. These ancient mines have created untold wealth, yet the region of Potosi remains the poorest in Bolivia. The government is nonetheless optimistic for the next chapter of its lithium story. Almost $3 billion of investment from Chinese and Russian companies will build an array of new lithium plants, capable of processing an estimated 100,000 metric tons of lithium carbonate each year. The Bolivian government says that it will bring infrastructure and employment, but with the touted rewards come risks. They're gambling on a relatively new technology. It's called DLE, or direct lithium extraction. Instead of pumping brine to the surface and waiting for the water to evaporate, this method separates out the lithium using a range of filtration techniques. It can take only a few hours, but it's unclear how water or energy intensive the process will be. There are small operations testing this method in the US and Argentina, but it hasn't yet been proven to work at scale. For many Bolivians, this uncertainty breeds concern.
We don't know what this agreement says. This agreement with the consortium, the Chinese consortium, says, and this is incredible because the natural resources are from all Bolivians, but we have not access with this agreement. The agreement is closed.
So you just, that new system they got there, you just crank the wheel, push a button, and money comes out the other end. But now I want people to understand is that it's not coming to Canada no more. Did you hear what they said? Russia and China. Like, this is what I'm trying to tell people. They've sold us out. Like, they fucking sold us out. We're not even making money here no more, okay? We're going to be a third world country right away. That's the plan for us. And a fucking toxic one. Environment at that, completely dependent. Mining colony. Yay.
It's water's the limiting factor on the mining. It's the same as reactors. That's why they were trying to build reactors in Alberta, was to provide power to the States, because the States doesn't have enough water to make power. You have to have it. You have to have the cooling. And so that's why they had to try and locate the reactors up along the Peace River, because that's the only place in Alberta that's got enough water to run the reactors. You have to remember that, on the cooling towers, there's 311 million liters of water a day comes off those cooling towers. It's phenomenal volumes.
And they got to use fresh water, right? So
yeah, you can't keep recycling it because it'll contaminate so bad that you can't use it. That's their good water.
That's their good stuff. We need that stuff, and that's why in South America, what's happened in few areas. There's one, I should have had the video, but there was trains and everything that were abandoned, and mining communities were abandoned because the people just said, you know what, I'm not doing it. I don't care how much you pay me. We're destroying the environment. Everyone's dying. This has happened before throughout history.
It's happened in virtually every country in the world. The indigenous people have been massacred, it's not too strong a word, over the last couple of centuries to extract minerals one way or another. Australia, South America, Africa, Canada, the States. We don't have to look far to see people that have been dispossessed and tortured and killed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality of it. That's what the mining companies have been based on. And it doesn't matter what type of mining you're doing, you're still impacting the environment severely. Water usage, the levels of arsenic in some of the methods that they use to extract the metal from the ore.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't keep doing it. When they had the mines at Serpent River, they killed 12 lakes and the Serpent River because they were using the lakes as tailings piles.
Here, watch this. We got the cesium
Cesium, in its pure form, isn't something you want around. Expose this liquid metal to air, and it might burst into flames. Add water, and it will explode. Yet we need cesium to drill for oil and gas, cancer radiation therapy, and to run atomic clocks that keep all our mobile devices in sync. One of the world's largest cesium deposits is here in Manitoba, at the Tanco mine, along the shore of Burnick Lake. Most of the cesium at Tanco is gone. It's already been mined. What's left is in stone pillars underground, pillars that hold up the roof of the mine. Now, the Chinese company that owns Tanco has a plan to get at this cesium. Beijing-based Sinomine told the Globe and Mail last month it wants to partly drain Burnick Lake and mine the cesium from above. North American Business Division Manager Frank Wang told the Toronto paper, the final goal definitely is we want to have open pit mining. This is a measure of just how scarce cesium has become.
It's a sign of quite severe desperation that you're going to drain a lake just to take out the pillars of the leftovers. Well, we're not talking about an enormous deposit here. We're just talking about the leftovers of an enormous deposit.
It's stuff's getting scarcer and scarcer all the time, and they're willing to pay more and more price for it.
It's amazing that like we got some of the last of the freshwater lakes in the world, and we're just gonna fill it we're gonna use this as rinse water. Like fuck.
Well, that was one of the things, like shortly after Harper came in, was we found out that they had designated 9 lakes, pristine lakes, as toxic waste dumps for mining companies. And they already had 3 of them contaminated by the time people found out about it and put a stop to it.
That's
but
probably what happened is they contaminated the lakes, and then they went and paid the politician off to make it legal, right? First they fucked up, and then they had to pay someone to make it go away. That's what I think.
It was that blatant. You could just, it was just like getting a ticket, Getting
There's like a cabal that runs this country, and it's not so much, the Europe or the crown, but that's what I found. And they're mining executives. Like, that's what their fingers are in. That's what this country's about.
One of the things, like, people misinterpret the fact that politicians run the country, but they don't realize how much power the bureaucrats have. And they don't change with the elections. Usually they're in there, they're career people. Those are the ones that you have to get to. Like when you're doing activism and that, those are the people that I used to go after, instead of the politician. The politician will just lie through his teeth, tell you anything pretty much, or dodge you. Whereas the bureaucrats, you can hold them accountable more than you can the politicians. And
like the elected officials in charge of agencies, environmental agents.
Well, anybody in any of the ministries, like below, like from the deputy minister on down, are unelected people, and they work for the civil service. Most of them for their entire careers because they're really well-paying jobs, and they're the ones that control policy. When the politicians come in, they don't know jack shit about anything. Like a lot of them just are brain dead assholes that,
Yeah, calm down. Yeah.
Well, that's what they are.
You're amongst
they don't know jack shit, so they have to depend on the bureaucrats. They get put in charge of a ministry, and all of a sudden they've got to depend on the bureaucrats to tell them what the hell is going on, so they don't look like complete idiots out there.
You find that's probably your most successes. Let's go. Let's give us some tips.
Well, that's where a lot of it was, because you can hold them accountable. We know what they're supposed to do. And the one thing a bureaucrat avoids at all costs is making a fuss or anybody knowing anything about him. He just wants to exist in anonymity throughout his career. If you can catch them doing something crooked, then you can hold them accountable, whereas you can't with the politicians.
And what advice would you give for First Nations activists from their end of it to fight?
The first thing in activism is you have to get them committed on paper to something. I didn't use a phone for decades for that reason, is that you send out questions to the responsible authorities or whoever you're targeting and get them committed on paper to the questions. And you can force them to answer the questions. And for like when you're first fighting in a campaign, you don't go out trying to lop their heads off right off the bat. You try and get as much material out of them and information out of them as possible. Like you have to remember, when they start proposing any of these projects, the first thing they do is they dump the project into the community, and then they screw off and let the community fight it out amongst themselves. They come back 6 months later. So the first thing you have to do is make sure that you're dragging them into the community the whole damn time. You don't want to let them run back to Ottawa to hide out. Get them into the community, hold their feet to the fire. And one of the ways of doing that, I just got to get this point out because people don't pay enough attention to it, is go after the municipal governments. You have access to them. It's a bitch. It doesn't matter what province you're in. It's hard to get to a provincial politician, where in the municipality, you can get to any damn one of them. You just walk down town hall. You go to the meetings. That's where you start enacting change, is because they're making decisions on behalf of the province, on behalf of the federal government. They're the ones that are the point people. They're the ones that have to deal with us. But people tend to want to go after the provincial politicians or the federal. Go after the locals first, and when you kick their asses often enough, they have to bring the province and the feds in, and then you can hold them accountable.
So when you're talking about like getting people to agree or to answer questions, you're referring to what, like the Committee of Future Generations is what I heard, so you give them a lot of credit for the win we had.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like they were so persistent. And that's the thing with activism, is you have to be persistent. Yeah. Like you got to grind it out. Like you'll get the odd, flash in the pan victory with all the bells and whistles. But for the most part, it's just grind it out. Hold those bastards to account. Yeah. Torment every single government official that is trying to hide something or cover it up.
Yeah. Be annoying. Get attention.
One of the best things that we did was I think it was called Mile Zero News up in northern Alberta. We used to buy a column every week. It came out once a week, and it was $400 to $500, depending on what we were writing. But we had free reign as to whatever we wanted to say in that newspaper. And it was my friend Brent Reese and I that wrote all the columns for it. Uh-huh. And there was no punches pulled whatsoever. And that paper was distributed to everybody in the county of Northern Lights up there. That was free of charge. So that way we're able to connect to the community at large. When we went to canvass the community to find out how people felt about it, 88% of people were against the reactors. But it's because we've been educating them all the way through the process. The people in these communities where Nemo's going into, they don't bring anybody in from our side to talk to people. The community's got to bring those people in themselves. So all they're hearing is one side. They only hear one or two meetings. Well, you don't know jack shit about nuclear after one or two meetings. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot involved in it just to even get a modicum of understanding.
Did you know that they have this brass alloy that won't corrode for 200,000 years?
Well, they claim copper will do the same thing.
It's a fact. It was fact checked by scientists and stuff. 200,000 years ago, Pat.
Everything is modeled. Like there's no real-time measurement. It's impossible.
No shit. Where's your proof? Show me the fucking study 200,000 years ago, or go fuck yourself.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines about nuclear was an elder from the First Nations in Serpent River. They asked him about uranium mining. He says, 200 years ago, he says, they wanted fur, so they came and killed all the goddamn animals. He says 100 years ago, they wanted timber, so they come and cut down all the goddamn trees. He says now they want uranium, so they're coming back for the goddamn rocks.
Taking everything.
That's the way First Nations got to feel. Like everything that they had that was good was taken from them.
Yeah, it's gross. It's fucking gross, man.
There's more people know about it now. I worked in Resolute Bay in 2008, and I stayed with a grandfather up there who was one of the people that the Canadian government had taken from northern Quebec and stuck up at Resolute Bay so that they had a presence in the north. And they just dropped them off. These people didn't know anything about the hunting locally. and they left him there. They said, we'll be back next year, and if you want to leave, you can. And they never went back for 3 years. Like, those people just about starved up there. And that was just the Canadian government doing it so that they had a human presence in the north. Like,
you tell me the government doesn't care about us? They would never do that. There's lives at stake, Pat. We got another lithium video.
Chinese and Russian energy companies are getting ready to mine the largest deposit of lithium in the world. These are the Atacama Salt Flats, a natural wonder, one of the driest places on Earth, and a vast source of lithium. Billions of gallons are pumped to the surface every year, where it is left to evaporate and concentrate. Mining companies also use millions of gallons of fresh water, and in one of the driest places on Earth, locals are scared of what that will do to their already scarce water supplies. Companies suck out enough brine to fill an Olympic swimming pool every 20 minutes. They also draw 32 gallons per second of fresh water from underground aquifers for use in the processing factories. The Chilean government blamed the copper and lithium industries for a 25-centimeter drop in the height of the water table. The copper mines plan to switch to desalinated water by 2030.
Yeah, right, Dave. Fucking okay, we'll wait. We'll just wait. We'll wait and we'll see.
Yeah, how many power plants are they going to have to build to run the desalination plant? See?
No shit. Yeah. Like, their science never adds up. You don't even need to be a rocket scientist to figure this shit out. You could have like a grade 5 and you could tell that this stuff is like Fugazi's. It's like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, just like selling bullshit. The reality is, like, we're fucking up the environment. Like, we're fucking up the environment. Our grandkids and great grandkids are going to not be happy with us. We'll put it that way.
Water, as I said before, water is the limiting factor. In 1980, I worked up on Lund on the coast, and they were laughing about this old guy up there that was trying to build a perpetual motion machine, which we all know is impossible. But the reason that they were laughing at him was that he was bragging about this freshwater exporting license that he had. And he had the only one in Canada at the time. This was in 1980. And I remember us talking about it, you know, how stupid it was. Who the hell's going to buy water? You know, we had no clue. And that's just 45 years ago.
You know what's next is air. And then they're not telling you about the lithium too. Not only it pollutes the water, but it pollutes the air. And they got to use like hydrochloric acid in there to help wash. It's toxic fucking chemicals that animals and you just
and arsenic.
There. Yeah.
Arsenic is one of the main.
It's not good. It's not good. It's only good because it's profitable to somebody, but it's not the product. If you that video or talk about 80 million in that fucking South American mine, 80 million, man. The money's not in the silver. The money's in the blood and the fucking the people that was raised and fed like cattle to go in a fucking hole and die. That's where the money is, man. Like, the silver's the after product. I've been stocking up on a little bit. Well, not really stocking up. I bought a few pieces, and I'm stopping there just to have as souvenirs to watch the world burn because, man, I don't want to support the mining industry either, man. The fucking gold and silver is not pretty either.
None of it is.
None of it is. Fucking gross.
You know, I remember the miners during the gold rush up in the Yukon. One of the ways that they used to separate the gold from the black sand was they'd take a potato and hollow it out and put the black sand and gold mixture in with mercury and wrap the potato up for a day and it'll separate. And because things were really hard to come by up there after they finished separating the gold and that, they'd eat the potato that was contaminated with mercury. Like, they just didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Well, we make better workers, better miners when they keep us stupid, right? This guy here, I was talking about this guy earlier. This guy's got a really good solution, and I bet you he believes in it. I don't think it'll ever see daylight because the intention is to wreck the fucking place.
So what if I told you we could potentially end lithium mining all over the world? Because we would basically have to put all of the lithium miners out of business. But I think we can. Yeah. We are actually working with a couple of other companies on this technology, but a lot of people don't know that you can actually extract lithium from produced water, which is the water that is produced in oil wells. And we believe that we can get enough produced water out of old non-operated wells that don't produce oil anymore to new wells. We can get enough water to extract enough lithium to put the lithium mining business out of business. And the reason it would put lithium mining out of business is because we can extract so much lithium that we would put so much lithium on the market that it would drive down the prices so much that mining for it would no longer be economical. And what happens when you pair those two technologies together? You see, because a lot of the methane emissions in the United States come from old wells that are shut in that just leak a little bit of gas. They leak such a small amount of gas that even if you were standing next to it, you wouldn't know it. But those millions of wells collectively leak a shit ton of gas. Yes. Now, if you pair those two technologies, you can put an end to that methane leaking while at the same time extracting lithium from that exact same well. And by the way, extracting that lithium from those wells is completely carbon free. Yeah.
That sounds like a fantasy. But it's probably true. You probably could get a lot of lithium out of the fucking old gas wells.
Yeah, you have to do such a large. It takes such a large volume of water. And again, you're moving water. You know, what are you going to do with that after you pull it out of the well? Put it in another one?
Yeah.
You know, to be able to extract anything on scale whatsoever, to be such a phenomenal volume of water that it just wouldn't be feasible. I wouldn't think anyway, but it's just
that's why it's a depopulation agenda. It's not only the water, but I've showed this on my show before too, but the phosphate fertilizers. You know, like we don't have enough fertilizer for all the food. They've made a huge population. It's unsustainable. But whatever, AI is going to solve it. AI is going to be here right around the corner and fucking they'll tell us what to do. You know, and I want to bring this in too. It's a good time for it. Research nowadays, like it was tough. Like during that time in Saskatchewan, the community for future generations, the internet was fairly new. Facebook was fairly new. Everything, a lot of the documents was still on paper. You know, a lot of things were done by mail still. I mean, we're in 2024. Canada Post just about fucking finished at this point, and everything's done digital. So research is completely changed. You can find everything on the internet now, but now we're dealing with fucking AI, and I want to play this so people realize that the AI is going to decide what
AI generated research on Google Scholar. I warned you, this is me continuing to warn you. AI is ruining the internet. Usually, when people ask me what's a good place to find research if they want to learn a new topic, I say pop over to Google Scholar. Apparently, even that is not safe. Fortunately, this is not yet a widespread issue. We see problems with researchers using AI and then not telling people that yes, they used it, and it can be a great research tool. But if you use it and claim that you did that research yourself, you are lying, and you're also making yourself vulnerable to an algorithm. Hey, but at least we can train AI to spot AI. I cannot tell you how convoluted and ridiculous the world has gotten. Now, I originally thought the dead internet theory was kind of just a joke. Now, here's a post from 7 years ago, and this was something that I noticed, that AI bots were taking over the old forums that I used to hang out and spend my childhood on, chatting with strangers, which is not safe. The reason why 50% of internet traffic right now is just bots is that AI is incredibly prolific. It can post more than humans can. This is the same reason that we need to be vigilant about AI taking up space in science, because it can publish 1,000,000 times faster than any person could. And those fake publications can claim whatever journal that they want to, and it won't matter unless people actually look it up and find out whether or not it truly was published in that journal. Right now, I feel like I'm living in a nightmare. People are now using AI bots for emotional support, and we always knew this was going to happen. Our Neopets were kind of emotional support too. We are just seeing these things on a scale that we never could have imagined before, and unless we do something about it, this is going to get worse, and it's going to get worse rapidly.
Yay. AI will fix it all. Perfect. Yeah.
The access to information has changed a lot, but the information isn't the same. In the 70s and early part of the 80s, governments were actually still telling the truth about the dangers of these things. And then that started changing that. And it's just gone progressively downhill ever since then. Everything's been closed off that much more.
The best argument we used to have, well, we still do, in my opinion, against the conservatives, the money men, okay? Because you can appeal to money men sometimes when you explain the situation when it comes to insurance. You know, like now they got some serious bullshit and they pretend like they got insurance. They don't fucking got insurance. Who pays? Who pays? When there's a fucking meltdown like Fukushima, who pays? You know, like,
yeah, they're only liable for, it's less than $1 billion. The government is. Any damages beyond that is the homeowner's responsibility. And there's a disclaimer in every homeowner's policy against nuclear accidents.
Yeah. So then everything is profit motive, profit driven, risk, right? Risk calculations. Now they're calculating their risk and they're putting it on you. You're the fucking taking all the risk. They're taking the profit. You get the risk. You get fucked, right? Don't worry. We'll give you a bunch of money. You're going to get fucked is all you get.
Yep. Yeah, we just get the waste.
Yeah, I laughed. They've been advertising on Facebook, and I jump in on their sponsored posts, and I tell them basically go fuck themselves, and they're like, "We don't know. We got insurance now." I'm like, "What kind of insurance you got?" Like, it's legitimate. Okay. This is why I wear the hat and glasses. I gotta get a red nose too. I just keep going until people take the fucking hit. If I gotta listen to this shit. Okay. 200,000 years, this fucking metal won't corrode. We know. It's been scientifically proven.
When they first started trying to get rid of the waste in Germany, they thought putting it in the salt mine was a good idea. So they put 125,000 barrels of all levels of waste in the salt mine. And within 20 years, it had contaminated the groundwater in the salt mine. And now they've got 125,000 barrels to try and figure out what the hell to do with.
Yeah.
And like the problems that they've created are almost unsolvable.
Yeah. But it's green energy, Pat. It's green energy. It's good for the environment, right?
But they call it low carbon, and the reactors themselves, no, there's no carbon. But in every step of the process, including the construction of everything, the mining, the smelting in Blind River, the smelting again in Port Hope, the conversion facilities, all the building costs of the reactors, there's a huge carbon footprint, but it's the reactors themselves. No, there's no amount of carbon comes off them. There are 46 different contaminants that do come off the reactors, but they're in small enough quantities that they won't hurt you.
Carbon's
so they don't
fucking good for you. We're made out of carbon. You need carbon. Yeah. You put that shit on your teeth. Anyways, here's a video on the water in Fukushima, man. Tell me this is
with the click of a mouse and the turn of a key, treated radioactive water from Fukushima was released into the Pacific Ocean. Tokyo Electric Power Company released video of the controversial step that forms a key part of decommissioning the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant after it was destroyed in the 2011 tsunami. 1.4 million tons of wastewater used to cool the melted nuclear reactors is being stored in tanks. The water will be released in the ocean over 30 years. Japanese authorities say the water is safe, and while just over half of Japan's residents support the move, many there and in neighboring countries are not convinced. Dozens of protesters gathered outside TEPCO's headquarters in Tokyo before the release, while in South Korea, 14 students were arrested after attempting to storm the Japanese embassy. Protesters marched in Hong Kong, carrying posters of Japan's PM in a symbolic Chinese funeral frame.
It's nasty stuff. The more people find out about it, the less they like it.
Yeah, I didn't have the video, but they got the prime minister to eat a fish from the fucking water they released in the ocean, and there was a Simpsons episode too, right? And it's like, we're supposed to believe that fucking fish or that guy's actually the PM. Like, it's theatrics. I've been alive this long to know, it's just it's all staged, man. It's all staged. I remember we were at the Saskatoon Inn, and when I shut that meeting down, and they had a native elder who got up and spoke when I'm trying to get my question out. And I was like, they were mad at me because I had my hand up while she was talking. And she was 100% a plant, man. I knew it. She said her husband had cancer and the isotope saved her. And I put my hand up too soon. It was kind of rude, but whatever. She was totally a fucking plant, man. Yeah. What do you do in those situations? I'm glad I reacted. I've offended a few, native mothers in my time. And, I don't regret it. Maybe one or two, but not that one. That's for sure.
No, you can't let them away with things. Like, it's the public meetings. Most people only find out about things at one or two meetings before they try and make a decision. And if they go to something and they hear lies and nobody calls anybody on it, they're not going to look anywhere else to make a decision. So the moment there's a lie comes out of the guy's mouth, it's on your feet and let them have it. Don't let them set the agenda. That was one of the first things I learned, was don't let them set the agenda. You set it. You make them respond. But people let them go too long. And then they get mad at the wrong things. It's like I say, they drop something into the community to let the community fight amongst themselves. And it pretty much splits half and half. It doesn't matter what it is, unless there's somebody there that's educating people in the community. That's how we change it. The thing you have to remember about nuclear is that they have to have a willing host community. That's part of their mandate. I've got that in writing from them. Where they get away with what they're doing right now is that they are the ones, the proponents are the ones that are determining if the community is willing. If they do a full-out referendum, that's fine, but the people haven't been educated about what the hell nuclear is. They don't know.
It's already been leaking into the river out there. Like, it's already getting contaminated in Ontario.
Oh, everywhere.
But that's basically what happened, is we chased them all the way back where it came from, and then proved the point that, look, now you got no place to put it. Now you got to fucking bury it where you make it and, deal with it. And now don't say it's a fucking viable or sustainable option when you got no plan on what you're going to fucking do with it. Yeah. Otherwise, everybody would have taken this shit. My advice in that time was, I think every one of those pneumo execs, which is what Ontario Power, really, they should all wear an amulet on their neck, and they should all wear a rod or something. Everyone avoid them like the fucking plague. We'll put them on an island somewhere, and that's how. And it'll be it for fucking nuclear. Like, that's my solution. Give them a necklace on a fucking uranium spent rod and put them on a fucking island.
Like right now, they just announced yesterday that the old SNC Lavalin, I called them, Atkins Cialis, Atkins Realis, I call them Atkins Cialis. But they just signed a contract yesterday to finish it. They made it sound like 2 new reactors in Romania. Well, these are 2 reactors that were started in 1980. And then part of the deal is the Canadian government, i.e. Trudeau, because SNC's buddies, are providing $3 billion in financing for the goddamn deal. So, and SNC Lavalin controls Atomic Energy of Canada Limited. They own it. They bought that from Harper.
Cameco. We come up with Cameco in Saskatchewan. What are they? 1% royalty rate on all new development.
Yeah.
And federal government buys them a refinery in Kazakhstan. They lay off like 300 fucking employees, steal their fucking pensions. They don't pay taxes. They just evade. Like they're like the biggest crooks around that just prance around like a princess, and they can do anything they want. You know, look what I can do. Look what I can do. I fucked over a bunch of employees. Nobody cares.
Yeah, we made them pay severely in Port Hope. We cost them $80 million pretty much in about a 2-year period between having to come up with the reports. And then we found out that they didn't have enough money set aside for decontamination afterwards. So they had to cough up, I think it was $42 million that day. They weren't happy about it. I remember my friend Johnny Moran, we were working out of his office. He's a lawyer and town councillor. He was coming in with a new box of paper in his arms, and he was laughing. He says, I wonder how much this box of paper is going to cost Cameco, because we're doing all our printing right there and everything, if we're running the whole campaign.
That's good advice. That's how you do it. And I've had others like Segovia on the show talk about it too. And he's like, yeah, you grind them to a halt, you know, slow them down with money. That's all, you know, that's all they understand.
Overload the systems. And the one thing that we found was that there was probably 6 occasions where we were given brown envelopes from people that worked inside the industry that wanted something brought out. And that's how we got some of our scoops, basically. They couldn't bring it out themselves, but they couldn't say anything about it, but they knew that we were the ones that were bringing everything else out. So
I find the biggest issue nowadays with activism is like getting people to care. You know, there's so many things out there and so many issues that people have with themselves. There's so many things to be concerned about, right? Where do you start? And then people have their own lives that they're getting beaten down with. But man, what I found with the environmental stuff is that it weighs good on your soul, knowing that it's probably going to wreck the place, probably going to destroy the fucking planet. It's probably going that way, but I wasn't a part of it. You know, I did my best to spread the truth and not be a part of, you know, making the environment toxic for future generations, stopping it.
You can make things better. You can get victories, but you have to do it a certain way. You know, and that's what it boils down to. There's ways to protest that are effective, and there's ways to protest that aren't effective. You know, we found a way that did it, and it wasn't because we were following due process. It was like we're on the edge on everything that we were doing. We were overloading their systems. It's like we tormented the living shit out of them. Like it was, you know, everybody had a list of
politics. When you knew me, I was with the Green Party, right? And I left the Green Party. I left politics. I said, fuck this. I get way more done with activism. Way more. Like,
I got way more done outside the system than I ever did inside the system.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing, like when I first started, they thought I was a little too edgy. And I go, you guys are getting it a lot easier now, like other groups and other individuals that were speaking, because the Cameco was so driven crazy by me for the most part that the other people were being listened to more. You know, it was like having Dave Semenko playing beside Gretzky. Gretzky can play hockey because Semenko's there to punch people out. You know, so it's like you go into meetings and, you know, there's always this guy that's trying to, you know, talk down to somebody that really doesn't know much about it. So you come in and start swinging basically for the fences and, you know, tone them down a little bit, and then they'll listen. You know, it's like I wasn't a gentle tree hugger by any stretch of the imagination. No. It's like I'm in their faces. It's like, we're doing things to shake them up all the time.
I felt like, and the reason why I'm happy to bring you on, you finally came on the show here, is like it's nostalgia, because I remember a lot of great freedom fighters in that time, and they were people that you would never know. They weren't, definitely, there was not much for social media back in that time, and they never did it for any kind of infamy, and they'd come out of the shadows just to, like, you know, help with a few knees and an elbow when we're dropping a, you know.
Yeah.
When we're doing some activism. It was great. Just showed up. We had brown dances. I was talking to my show last week about on Idlewild and 20th, you know, with Idle No More, when we joined up with them. But the First Nations, when it came to the mining, they understood that. You know, the Teresa Spence did her hunger strike around that time, and that was basically De Beers fighting De Beers mine. And if you knew the truth and what the media was telling you, it was completely opposite. And you know, and then Convoy, like, I mean, for me, it was just this, it was just more people at that point, but it was a lot of people waking up. But, you know, a lot of people woke up for the first time there, you know, and I was, all these vets, I mean, man, I wish I could see a lot of these guys again. Max Morin, for instance, I invited him to watch the show tonight, and I'd like to get him on the show from Committee for Future Generations, you know.
Yeah. Wicked storyteller.
Yeah.
Wicked storyteller. But you'd need a long podcast to have Max on.
Yeah. We got 2 hours. I think we can get him on for 2 hours. He does a little bit of video though, but he's a little bit of a shy guy too, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Some of our best freedom fighters, it's hard to get them on camera. They don't want recognition. You know, they're doing it because they actually love Mother Earth. They actually love, you know, our environment.
See, there was a lot of people that worked with us that know when you worked with us. I know, like, the provincial employees in Alberta, when I was out there, were sent written warnings against being involved or having any say whatsoever in the nuclear debate. And we had, I don't know how many of them worked with us up around Peace River up there. There was 15 provincial employees at least that worked with us, but you just couldn't put their name out front on anything. You know, they did a lot of the, you know, a lot of people would have their own little group that, you know, when I sent out a directive or somebody that was writing, Brent was sending something out, everybody had their own little group of 30, 40, 50 people that they kept in touch with, that they'd let know what was going on in that. We didn't do fundraisers up there the same way that most groups did. We just went around to the community and everybody's kicking in like $20 or $30 a month. So we knew that we had like $1,500 for this month to do the copies of that letter into the newspaper. So over the course of the time, and that we continually berated the powers that be, we had money coming in for it. So we weren't stressed about that. And that was one of the best tools that we had. But it's a case of, you can't just have one protest and then everybody is laying back, tired and played out. And okay, well, we'll wait a month and we'll go do this again. It's got to be like every day, and you just wear them down. It's like the mayors in the little municipalities up in northern Alberta, when they saw me like in a store, they'd literally just drop everything and just run because we had them tormented so bad. Like we'd go into like the municipal meetings. We go into municipal meetings and they wouldn't accept our survey or whatever like that. The whole community sees what the hell is going on, and these are all farmers and pretty much all conservative farmers up there. The odd NDP are sprinkled in, and they're just ready to hang somebody. So the councillors know what the hell is going on. You know, and you just get in their faces, keep on them. And so everybody that was kind of in the group, was, I don't know, 50 people, roughly 50, 60 people, they all had a list of the phone numbers and email addresses of all the councillors and everybody that was in a responsible position. And they called them and tormented them every day, left messages. We told them when they didn't accept our survey, I just stood in front of council and I told them, I'm going to make this the worst fucking summer of your life. And we did.
It's getting dangerous now, though. You know, like that video of the UK, man. You look at the wrong fucking post, and you're going 12 years. Fuck, get the fuck out of here, man. We got to turn it up. You know, it's activism. It's coming. It's coming.
See, that's the problem with trying to get people motivated or involved, is that they're afraid. People are scared shitless. One, they're not very well informed about most things, and two, their economic situation is precarious, or maybe it's not precarious, and they just don't want to lose anything.
Yeah.
Like we haven't changed as a people in 5,000 years. We're exactly the same. We're a warlike people. We'll enslave people in whatever way we have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, we just haven't changed. And people are going to look out for themselves before they're going to look out for the common.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not going to put themselves out in position. And the corporations know this. Like in Port Hope, the one time I'd done something to Cameco, and they were talking to my friend Johnny Moran, the lawyer, and he said, Jesus Christ, we can't even sue him. He doesn't own anything.
That's right.
You know, but that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people have enough bravery that they're going to go forward regardless of the potential loss to them, but there's not that many people out there.
No. Wow.
And
I mean, Convoy was nice, but like I said, there's a lot more people there to party than there was on the last day to get an ass kicking, which, you know, it shows you who was really there. But we did. There was more than I thought, you know. I was quite proud to be Canadian.
There's a lot of people out there, but you have to get them motivated one way or another. Like the way that we stopped the reactors wasn't about exposing the technical deficiencies of it. It was by showing that the bastards that were pushing the project were lying about different things. And we proved that they were lying. Like we had the evidence. And those farmers up there didn't know a damn thing about nuclear, but they know what a goddamn liar is. When we started, we did like 250 sheets of plywood in signs, no to nuclear. So about a week before Christmas, we had these signs up, and they went and took 2 signs down, and one happened to be on a store in, I can't remember the little town, just north of Peace River. And she was one of our soldiers, and my friend Brent called, and he was just apoplectic. You know, they tore down our signs like that. And I started laughing. He's, what the fuck are you laughing about? And I go, they couldn't have done anything worse for themselves. We never said another thing about the technology after that. And we never said no to nuclear. We just said yes to free speech. And we kicked their asses after that. Until that time, we couldn't get any media coverage whatsoever. You'd have the odd isolated little newspaper article that had come out. When we changed it from no to nuclear to yes to free speech, we were literally inundated with media. It changed that quickly. And people went against the project when we showed them how many times these people were lying. Like they came in and said they were going to build 2 reactors. And then when they put their application into the CNSC, it was for 4 reactors. They said that they had sales for, I think it was 75% of the power. 2 weeks later, they had to come out and say that they didn't. They did the same thing over property. Yeah, we have property to build the reactors. And then, you know, a week later, they didn't. The farmers understand that. You know, if you're trying to educate somebody, you got to talk a language that they understand. If that makes sense.
No, it is. No, it is. I think it's been helpful. But I wanted from you to come on the show tonight and help school other people. You know, I hope this message gets to a lot of other activists, and we can learn from each other and from our experiences, and it's know their tricks, learn their fucking dirty tricks.
It's the grind that counts, and most campaigns only last a year because people burn out after that. So the bulk of what you're going to get accomplished will be done in the first year. But you have to be able to figure out a way to grind them the whole goddamn time. That's how we want. And you have to have people that know how to write. You don't need many. You need 2, 3, 4. Darcy, that was in that video, was one of the writers. We drove them crazy during that waste debate there. There was a 3-week period in October of 2014, I think. There was Darcy and then a journalist who's down in Honduras right now and myself. We put out 13 papers in 15 days, all targeted to Brad Walls, under just about everything under the sun that we could think about. Including, we found out about the caribou that had got caught in the tailings pond up there and burnt the hair off it. And then we told them that we'd set up a hotline, a tip hotline. That was the biggest reaction we got from the media and from the government, when we set up a tip hotline from him, like instantaneous too. Like there was something we kept them on edge the whole time. You know, it was like you could almost guarantee that Friday at 11 o'clock, I had some email going into the bureaucrats and the politicians just an hour before they were shutting down for the weekend on Friday. So they'd have to deal with my shit the whole goddamn weekend and have that ready for Monday. And then Monday, I got a whole new batch for them. We used to sit.
I'd be a professional pain in the ass, right? That's what you got to do.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Your books, I keep reminding myself, can you get them on Amazon, or are they just?
No,
I get hold of anything.
The one on Alberta, we can ship books, but the other two, I don't have any copies of them anymore. But if anybody wants any, like I'll just send PDF copies.
Oh yeah.
And links and that. It's just the Alberta book. Like we've got lots of copies of them still.
Stick a link in the comments here if anybody's interested. On YouTube or on Rumble, we'll put a link in the comments.
Yeah, they can just contact me at entwork@hotmail.com.
Okay.
Anybody wants to book. The one is on Stop the Hogs in Saskatchewan. That's the group up in northern Saskatchewan, or around. Yeah, it was outside of Saskatoon. They were trying to stop the hog barns years ago, and they set up a Hotmail or a website. And that's where that was the only place that would post the papers I was writing, because they were a little bit too rough for.
Yeah, this is not a popular place to be. Like we take on some big enemies here. Like the mining industry is the mafia in this fucking country, you know. And I'm proud to fucking give them the hits that we have, and we're still here to talk about it and laugh about it. It's fucking great. And the reasons why. Go ahead.
There's always a way to get them, because they're all crooked. You'd have to remember the ones that are saying in the companies that this is safe. Those are the academic whores that they hire. So they say that it's safe. They know goddamn well it's not. You know, they don't like being called academic whores, but that's what they are.
That's what they are. Enough money and you can figure out how to spin something. Spin doctors, really. And the reasons why, this is like, at the end of the day, you know, we got to look at why we.
I'm going to show you a picture of something that would unalive you just by looking at it. You ready? Don't say I didn't warn you, because this is the elephant's foot, nickname given to the leftover radioactive uranium lava flow in the basement of the Chernobyl nuclear plant after its tragic catastrophe in 1986, melting through meters of solid steel and concrete before settling and cooling on the floor here, solidifying into a 2-ton block of what is possibly the deadliest form of matter to ever exist. Corium, emitting enough radiation for a lethal dose in humans by simply just standing next to it for over 200 seconds, the equivalent of 4.5 million chest x-rays all at once. It was so bad that even cameras got destroyed when they got too close to it, so they had to put them on chairs and wheel them around the corner just to even take these pics. Almost everyone who took photos too close to it unfortunately didn't live for much longer. The graininess and missing pixels of the photos are actually caused by the gamma radiation physically eating through the film reel. The elephant's foot has since been barricaded inside the Chernobyl plant with steel and concrete enclosures known as the Chernobyl sarcophagus, and is expected to remain radioactive for the next couple hundred years, with Chernobyl as a whole to be uninhabitable for at least 20,000 more years.
It's 20,000 years.
As bad as that is, you have to remember that in one of these cooling pools at the reactor sites, they have
100 times, 500 times as much radioactive material as went up in that reactor. So in those cooling pools, they set the rods inside them. That water has to be recirculated constantly. If it's shut down for like 2 hours, those rods will heat up. They can self-combust.
Mm-hmm. But that's old technology, Pat. They got new reactors now. You don't worry about that anymore. It never happens. It's basically impossible. It never happened. That's what they said after Chernobyl, and then fucking Fukushima happened. And it's like fucking 10 years later, they're like, yeah, that's old. At Fukushima, that's old technology. We don't use that no more. By the way, I don't know if you know this. Maybe you probably do. But it all gets traced back to Russia. Like GE is paying a license for their nuclear reactors from Russian blueprints. It's all Russian technology.
Yeah. China has one type of reactor from virtually every reactor company in the world. And that because part of them buying the reactor is the technology transfer that goes along with it. That's why there's CANDU reactors over there. It's, China's done that with virtually everything the last 30 years now. Like everything that they import into the country, there has to be the technology transfer with it.
Because they're going to steal it anyways.
Yeah. And the companies don't mind going over there because there's no public outcry about much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's on time and on budget over there, it seems.
I saw this video and I did a little bit of research on it, and I think he's right. I want to get your input on it, but this ties the whole lithium and nuclear industry together.
Isn't it crazy how much lithium they actually need for car batteries? That's only the half of it. If you only knew what they actually use lithium for, you'd be shocked. Well, what are we talking about? Cell phones, batteries, grease? What? No. Did you know that a nuclear fusion reactor relies on lithium? Wait. So you're telling me that a nuclear reactor uses lithium? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. A lithium blanket. Lithium. You see, lithium-6 can produce tritium. Tritium is the fuel that's needed, not just for a nuclear reactor, but for thermonuclear bombs as well. Tritium. That's the other half of the lithium equation. It's not just for carbon.
Yeah, they don't have to have lithium. The tritium is what they usually use in the trigger. What it does is it accelerates the fusion process. And they have so much tritium. That's what's given off of, especially off the CANDU reactors, is so much tritium.
So they do use lithium though in the process to make tritium.
I've never heard of it.
No, he said lithium plates. Never heard of that.
Well, they might use it in the trigger mechanisms for bombs, but not in the plates. They use beryllium, and beryllium it's a neutron moderator as well. Like any of the reactors have to have some way of moderating. They have to have a supply of neutrons to split the atoms, and that's what the moderators are. So you have heavy water, and beryllium can be used as well.
It's similar to lithium, isn't it? Beryllium?
No, it's a really weird metal. It's very corrosive as well. Shit, I just had it here a second ago. Damn it, there's one more thing.
It's okay. It's not science class. I don't think anyone's cooking up some fucking nuclear bombs here or anything. What I wanted to get into, or we're getting close to the end here now. We're going to start wrapping it up. But what makes it most dangerous is dealing with this shit. And there's natural disasters. You know, like things you can't control. Nowadays, I'm pretty sure weather's pretty much controlled. But what about war? What happens when World War III happens and nuclear holocaust starts happening? What happens when why wouldn't you fire a nuke at a nuclear facility or where there's a bunch of nuclear waste, right? You're going to completely destroy that country, especially from the other side of the world, and you want to shut down, you know, their capabilities. Here's a video on it. Sorry, I'll just keep. No?
If you strike
Go
a
ahead.
nuclear
No.
power plant directly with a nuclear weapon, you will have a nuclear core materials meltdown. The land will be uninhabited all the way to Colorado.
Are you serious?
The fires will loft into the air 330 billion pounds of soot. Goes up into the troposphere and blocks out the sun. 70% of the sun's rays disappear. Hence nuclear winter. Across the mid-latitudes of the globe, you have bodies of water, freshwater bodies become ice. The ice at the Arctic Circle doubles. You have a temperature drop around the Earth between 27 and 40 degrees.
Whoa. Wow.
Places like Iowa and Ukraine, breadbaskets of the world, they become frozen for 8, 9, 10 years. Agriculture fails. So now you have people, any survivors, who are, you know, malnourished, suffering from radiation poisoning. Everyone who they know is dead, fighting over a tiny amount of resources. When the sun returns, you think, the sun's back out, but the ozone layer has been destroyed, so the sun will give you radiation poisoning, so people have to live underground.
Hey.
That's quite feasible.
Mm.
To give you an idea, 8 pounds of plutonium, 8 pounds, that's about the size of a softball, is enough to kill everybody on Earth. It's that poisonous. You know, so if you have a nuclear bomb hitting a reactor that hits that storage pool with 100, 200 times as much as what was in Chernobyl, yeah, that scenario is quite feasible.
Well, say that Ignis, you know, right outside, or that other spot outside of Toronto where they're planning to bury the stuff. But I mean, how many nuclear reactors are on the lakes? One nuclear.
The one at Ignis, there's nothing close to there. There's some down in the States, but even them are quite a ways away. But at Bruce, there's 8 reactors there right now.
And say it took a ICBM or one of them launched from a submarine direct hit.
And they got 40 years of the fuel rods stored there for 8 reactors. It's a big boom. It's like I'll just read something real quick.
Big boom.
This is from this is a statement that came out in 1980, and it was the Ontario Hydro's report on their nuclear reactors. And it says, "It is not right to say that a catastrophic accident is impossible. The worst possible accident could involve the spread of radioactive poisons over large areas, killing thousands immediately, killing others through increased susceptibility to cancer, risking genetic defects that could affect future generations, and possibly contaminating large land areas for future use." They were telling the truth, like I said, back in around 1980. Like the documents that we had spelled out specifically what the dangers were. But that was a 4-year window from the time St. Mary's School was exposed and they started closing the doors on everything again. So we had a 4-year window where we were getting the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they dropped a dirty bomb outside of Toronto, which is conventional explosive with just depleted uranium or just waste uranium, if they detonated that in Pickering, there's 5 million people in Toronto. There's no evacuation possible. There's no place to put them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and if the wind is blowing from the west, it's like it can contaminate right out to Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
No problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, during the Gulf War, I think it was like 4 days, and the scintillation counters in London were going off from the depleted uranium they were using in
Iraq.
In Iraq.
Yeah.
You know, that's how much it travels around the globe.
Yeah.
Like, look at the weather patterns. That's all you have to do. It's like that was a point we made with the waste, the tailing waste up at the mines in northern Saskatchewan. The radon gas that's coming off of them can easily reach Saskatoon. The smoke from forest fires gets there, so the goddamn radioactive waste can get there.
Yeah. And it's scary that we're heading into another third world war, and we're going to see, like, Putin's been threatening it many times, man. He's like, we're going into strategic nukes, first.
Well, the one thing that I heard that gives me a little confidence is that the Americans made it very clear to him that they know where he is every minute, and the first nuke that they drop is going to be on his ass.
Yeah. Yay. Yay.
But you got to remember, like, this isn't just all this crap going on now. It's been that throughout my life. You know, there was the Korean War, there was the Bay of Pigs, there was Vietnam, there was Cambodia. There's always been, like, the Cold War going on, but we've been fighting it through proxies.
Yeah.
You know, like Afghanistan, the Russians.
They sure itchy to fucking depopulate again, I think. I think it's going to be a big one again.
That's the way we've always been as a people, though.
Yeah.
That's our nature. There's good ones and bad ones. My friend, a counselor, went to the convention, and it was about losing money and people stealing and that. And what they found was that 10% of people will never steal, 10% of people will steal at every opportunity, and the other 80%, it depends on the situation. And we're like that as a people with just about everything. 10% never will, 10% always will, and the other 80%, it depends on what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Or will I get caught?
It's been really nice to have you again, Pat. I got a special video, though, for you. I wonder if you can tell me who this guy is with the funky hair in the end.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Questions are being asked today at a public meeting in Saskatoon, and it has to do with nuclear waste storage. Consultations now being held on shipping and dumping nuclear waste on reserves in the province. Listen to this question.
I don't believe your plan is good at all. I think your safety is an illusion, a bunch of money thrown at this illusion to make us think it's safe. But what happens when it happens?
One of the questions you heard posed at organizers of the meeting, the Nuclear Waste Management Organization trying to find out how Saskatchewan First Nations feel about becoming part of a storage site. People here having concerns about safety, money, and the environment.
Honestly, to me, it seems that they're promoting nuclear waste dump in Saskatchewan. They're saying that the money will help them, but the money and jobs is not worth the destruction to the environment.
Owen Swiderski, you're just listening to, he was at the meeting, and he says he feels there hasn't been enough consultation and that meetings like these haven't been publicized enough. The FSIN has been given $1 million to hold these sessions.
1 million.
You were pretty clean cut back then.
That was my first interview ever, man, and I didn't look the same. It was a shit show. I didn't have any shit for my hair. It just fluffed up, and I had like a gangster hat. They said obey. I'm like, I can't wear that on CBC. I'm just going with nerd. I'll go with nerd, but
takes all kinds.
Yeah. Whatever. It doesn't matter what it looked like. I fucking hammered it. I smashed it out of the park. I'm proud of myself for that one.
That's what it takes, is just people, swinging for the fences. It's, you can grind it out.
I had a buddy with me that he was a nihilist, and he was like an ex-army guy, and he had enough of everything. I probably had a traumatic childhood, but that was the perfect co-pilot I needed for that, because when we walked in, it was like the scene from Step Brothers, where they're like, "We're here to fuck shit up," when they went for the job interview. We were there to fuck that meeting up, and I did. And if you heard me, that was my voice at the beginning. I'm just calmly telling this woman that she's a criminal, like just like on a nice little even tone, you know. And Perry Bellegarde came up and broke my phone, man. He broke my phone, and that's when I first learned about high-profile cases, and the police won't prosecute the high-profile cases. And then his son fucking started like beaking me on Facebook, and I'm like, "Hey, your dad owes me a fucking phone, asshole."
CNSC came to Port Hope once, and you come in the door of the meeting, and there was 3 of them, I think, there handing out pins and pens and greetings. And I come in, I went to shake the first girl's hand, and I said, "Really nice of you guys to come down from Ottawa to see the people that you're killing down here." Fucking could have just heard a pin drop. I got one more. Walked into the library in Port Hope one day. Look, and they got one of the conference rooms. CNSC is taking it over. Hadn't heard about any meetings. So I walked to the door and asked the girl what was going on. They go, "Well, we're just coming down to inform people that we're going to be deciding who's going to get to do interventions or presentations from here on through. We're just going to select a few people from the community." I started yelling and screaming, calling them everything under the sun. This went on for like 45 minutes to an hour. And I know all the girls that worked in the library, and they come back, "Can you calm it down a little bit, please?" "No, he's goddamn right." I was just fucking screaming at them. 45 minutes, they packed up, went back to Ottawa, never heard another peep about any of that shit.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. They're demons, man. They're like possessed little fucking gremlins. Yeah. You know, it's all about money. That's what Perry Bellegarde said when he sat down next to me. He's fucking mad. And he goes, "This means a lot of money for my people." And I said, "What would your ancestors think about selling out Mother Nature for money?" And he's just like, he goes, "Are you Indian?" And I said, "I'm treaty." Get the fuck out of here. I'm treaty people, I told him. I know how to play this game. Fucking asshole.
Yeah, they'll try and bullshit you, but you just got to keep hammering away.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you got to be in for the long haul, you know, and just consistent. You just got to grind. You know?
I'm thankful that I've seen a few wins in my day, you know, and I like this. I like doing this little show now and highlighting other activists. It's all about where you're standing, because who knows what's going to happen. You can't live for the future. You can't live in the past. You can live for now, do what you can now, and wait for your opportunity. You know, get educated, be aware, you know, like try not to be a part of the wrecking the place for everybody. You know, it'll do wonders for your spirit and your soul.
People have to educate themselves about different things. You know, find out what's going on. Like, research has become a dirty word for the most part, you know, the connotations that are associated with it. But that's what you're doing. You're learning. It's like, there was no headway made against nuclear in Port Hope because nobody knew anything about it. I spent 1.5 years doing nothing, absolutely immersed myself in it, like 100 hours a week. I did nothing else but learn fucking nuclear. So that when those son of a bitches from Cameco would come to the meetings, I knew whether they were bullshitting or not. But until then, none of us knew enough about it to be able to call bullshit. That all changed then. You know, they tried running through the SEU, slightly enriched uranium. That was their downblending operation. They come out with a 900-page environmental assessment document. And I wasn't doing much at the time, so I took it on. And
there's no point giving my opinion on it, but I came up with 623 questions. I had 2 other people helping me a little bit, and 623 questions, and submitted them on that, and they had to fucking take it. They answered 400 of them, increased it out to 1,350 pages. I came up with another, I forget what it was another 150 questions on that. They answered half of them and kicked it out to 2,200 pages. They figured it was costing them $5,000 a page to generate these reports. But it was from going through this 900 pager with a fine-tooth comb. They were referencing reports that had never existed. The one part was, the study on birds down at the affected area involves viewing 2 bats. Bat's not a bird. Like, there was this kind of nonsense in this report. And that's what we did. So we forced the town, because of the number of questions we were coming up with, we forced the town to bring in a peer review that worked on their behalf. The first time the peer review came in, basically they wouldn't answer half the questions because they said that's outside the purview of our mandate. And we made it very clear to them right there on the stage that we would absolutely destroy their fucking company and its credibility if they didn't include all the aspects that we were wanting answers on. So they came out, I think it was 2 weeks later, with the updated report. 1 hour after the report came out, Cameco canceled their SAU project in Port Hope.
Nice.
So there was about a half a dozen of the group went out to Vancouver because we got an award from National Canadian Geographic for the environmental award. I think we got the silver, and they're getting the award. And the host says, "Yeah, you resorted to the Socratic method to get to win the battle." And half of them are going, "What the fuck's the Socratic method?" It's like, but we ask questions. And the ones that they can't answer, if they answer the question, fine, it's scary. If you don't answer the question, it must be even scarier because you're afraid to answer it.
Yeah, find out which questions they don't want asked. That's what I learned. That's when I asked mine about, what are you going to do when it's buried in the ground and it leaks, or when it's in transport and it fucking leaks? What's your plan? And you see that little cartoon they got there? That's their fucking, like, okay, bullshit. Like, what's your fucking plan when the shit leaks, man? Like, and I said that it's criminal. If you don't got one, that's fucking criminal. What are you guys peddling here? And that's when everyone lost their shit.
I let one other little trick out of the bag. I don't give a fuck anymore anyway. I always had a couple of aliases, email accounts, and one was Bill Lindsay. Yeah, Bill Lindsay, I think it was. And I used to submit things to Cameco and to Bruce Power, the CNSC, asking them questions and pretending I was pro-nuclear. And the fucking answers I was getting, like, I was like, who's this fucking idiot Pat McNamara that's speaking at this meeting this weekend, like that? And I get things back. These are the questions you should be asking him, like that. They're trying to counsel me on how to attack me. Like, we're having regular meetings with groups up there, and it became the laughing stock. That was the part they enjoyed most. What did Bill Lindsay find out this week? Like,
He's the smartest guy in the room, eh? Fuck, we need him. We need him on the payroll.
But the things that they were fucking telling me, it was like pure bullshit. And then I go into a public meeting and I go, well, this is what you told my friend Bill Lindsay, for Christ's sakes. You're supposed to be building windmills and solar farms up here along with the nuclear. It's like there's different ways of getting them. Port Hope, they tried silencing me there. When I first started speaking, all I had to do was call the office and say, I don't want to talk on Tuesday the 15th. After a couple of presentations, they were kind of a little edgy. After a couple of presentations, it was, can you give us an outline of what you're doing? A couple more was, we need a verbatim copy of your presentation 5 days ahead of time. This is what they were doing to me, eh? So the way that we got around that was I'd submit my 10-minute presentation. I was allowed 10 minutes. It was 2,000 words exactly. And then my friend Johnny Moran, the lawyer, and a minister that was on council were both on my side. And in the afternoon before a council meeting and goes, okay, what do you really want to talk about tonight? So they'd each have a question to ask me. So after I finished my presentation, the mayor had to say, are there any questions from councillors? Then Johnny Moran asked me a question, fucking way I go for 5 minutes answering this question. And that's what I was originally wanting to talk about at the fucking meeting. But that way they didn't get a heads up about what I was going to talk about. And the mayor just fucking lose it like that. He knew we were fucking him, but there's nothing he could do about it. So it's finding ways to beat their systems all the way around, eh?
Yeah. You really got to just put yourself in there. You got to just, be willing to, put your name on the line, maybe embarrass yourself a bit or whatever, but who cares? It's for the right cause and right reason, and opportunities come and you seize them and you get wins.
Yeah, and it feels really good when you get them. It's unfortunately we've had a few or been part of a few, and
like how many people know that? But there's like with the Committee of Future Generations, me and you, and some of the I don't know more, but there were not very many people are responsible for keeping it out of Saskatchewan. You had a pivotal role in that, and a lot of people even know that there was going to be waste in our fucking waterways, right? Nuclear waste, and I'm sure they would be grateful if they knew, So I was glad you came on the show tonight, and I was able to I don't know, boast about myself or reminisce anyways about our old days.
Enjoyed it very much, and I guess it's the first time I've talked about much in the last few years and that, so it's kind of getting the juices going, and I've just been doing a little catching up to speed on a few things here lately and that, so kind of looks like I'm going to get involved in some capacity again. There's too many fucking nuclear orcs out there again to let them run rampant.
I know. I've seen them like sponsors on Facebook and people that I admired in the freedom movement that decided to take nuclear money now, and I'm like, oh my god, like they're buying this green agenda bullshit with nuclear energy.
Yeah,
it produces some serious waste, like the fluoride, the fluorocarbons that come off of the stuff too. The industry is terrible, but that's another show. Anyways, thank you, Pat. Thanks for coming out of retirement here to be on the show with me, and yeah, it was awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. First podcast I've done, so maybe I'll get involved again.
Are you on social media at all? Anywhere? Can anybody get in touch?
Just Facebook.
Just Facebook? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll share that link too, I guess, in the
like I say, if anybody wants copies of the book and that, just email me at entwork@hotmail.com.
All right, Pat.
Easy to send
much
them
love,
out.
brother.
Enjoyed it muchly. Take care.
Have a good night.
The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. The only way to deal with an unfree